Mechanisms like oil, for example, and natural gas, the mechanisms that are used for most of our energy today are very, very short or even non-existent in many parts of the world. So what are those people going to do? What are we all going to do when the total need for electrical power industry overshoots the ability to furnish it, particularly with a centralized system? You can only burn so much coal because you only got so much coal. Fortunately, we do have a large coal supply, but it's dirty when you burn it, much dirtier than natural gas, for example. So the cleanliness of what you're doing gets to be a big problem. If you're in a desperate part of the world and you have coal burning, you don't have any cleanliness. You have it being burnt as dirty as need be. And what happens is you have many more children dying and things like that, lung problems, things like that going on. So energy is a thing with insidious. It's embedded in our society in everything from the health to the economy, to the strength, the ability to maintain the strength, for example, militarily, to keep yourself free and keep from being overwhelmed and suppressed. Energy is involved in everything, to have a decent standard of life. You don't have it if you don't have cheap, clean energy, at least cheap energy. We would hope cheap, clean energy. The energy problem touches every human being on this planet. It touches whether or not we have energy wars and whether we decimate whole areas and whole cultures, or whether we can in fact turn to alternative sources that allow it to do it cheaply and cleanly and easily. And we need some work, yes, in windmills and solar cells and all of that. We need everything we can get. But they alone will not do it. We have to go to energy from the vacuum. That's the only alternative we have. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to turn to our scientific community and we're going to say, what can be done? You can help some by building more windmills, windmill-driven power systems, by closely taking advantage of your hydroelectric capabilities, by particularly solar cells and areas where the solar radiation will support that. But these can only help around the edges. But say if they're 15% contributors, if you can make them 15%, well worthwhile doing it. But the brunt of it today is going to be oil, natural gas, coal, and nuclear power. That's exactly what the brunt of it has got to be taken by. And this is what we're facing. This leads us to the large centralized power system. The terrorist threat can lay it down anytime it wishes to. And we can turn around one day where the very thing we've done to supply us with energy goes right out the window and right down the tube. So we're caught between a rock and a hard place in the old saying. We're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. There has to be an alternative. The alternative has to come from the scientific community. We've got to go, for example, take electrical engineering. The model that is used in electrical engineering is over 100 years old. It still assumes a material ether. It's a useful model, it's done a lot of things, but it's got a lot of problems. It still assumes the old material ether because it still assumes a force field in space. There's no such thing. We've known that for decades in physics. Nobody has ever changed that model. Not one. It still assumes, for example, that the vacuum is inert. In particle physics, my goodness, since at least 1930, the year I was born, we have known that's false. The greatest energy reservoir in the entire universe is what we call empty space. Our physics proves this. We don't have to go reprove it. We have to go back into our models, back into all the equations we've gotten so comfortable with. We've got to look at their assumptions. First, let's talk about the modern view of a charge, because it differs appreciably from the old classical view that we've used so long. Modern view of the charge considers the charge and its interaction with the vacuum at the same time. It doesn't consider a charge sitting off with no vacuum, no space, or anything going on. It considers